without further ado, you can start eavesdropping now. What's up? Georgia Smith, the one. So dope.
The one indeed.
Beautiful.
That's a beast.
She has a new project out. So if you like good music, go ahead and check her out. Lost and Found. So welcome to I See You Eavesdropping. It's me, Rich, along with my fellow brothers. Introduce yourself.
Of course, Corey here as always.
Sorry, I took a sip. Trey.
Speaking of sips, what are you sipping on? Oh, maybe we should ask the bartender. Corey, what's on the menu today?
I mean, we ain't playing no games tonight, honestly. This ain't a mix. This ain't nothing extraordinary. We're really doing more or less straight Elijah Craig, small batch bourbon out of Kentucky. Cutting that with a little sweet Italian vermouth. And with a little bit of brown sugar, half and half, topped with a cherry. You know what I'm saying? We put a little bit of brown sugar at the bottom of the glass to make it fancy and make it look good. But besides that, we getting to the point. We're about halfway through a pretty big bottle here, so that's kind of unsettling. But besides that, I mean, you know, we're keeping it very direct in that.
How many drinks do you think we have? I guess at this point.
Well, I mean, if we include the one-off. The one that we had before we went upstairs, which was a shot, and at least the 4 or 5 glasses of Elijah Craig that we've had a piece. We might be at least, well, you got to be probably 6 or 7 in, which means me and Trey both probably 5 or 6 in. Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting for sure.
And I guess first and foremost, let's go ahead and say rest in peace to Anthony Bourdain.
Oh yeah, man! Big ups to Anthony Bourdain. I mean, I'm not inspired by a lot of people, but everybody that know me know I travel a lot. I always like to watch his shows because he was very much so about embracing other cultures, seeing new things, and trying new food. And I'm all about all of that. I mean,
yeah.
That's how you really find out about yourself. You got to go and live in somebody else's shoes. So, I mean, rest in peace, Anthony Bourdain.
A legit pioneer of both culinary arts and travel connoisseur, you know. And I think, if anything, through example, he taught us that, you know, explore life, explore everything it has to offer because you don't know when your time is up.
I agree. I became a fan of him as well. And I know he was an author. He wrote a couple of books as well, and he shared his story and a struggle that he dealt with for years. I saw something that he was speaking about, that he was working in a restaurant and he was working on a grill. I'm not sure if it was fries or something, but it was something low. And a town director pretty much gave him an opportunity to travel the world. And I know he touched me. He touched my friends. So as far as like his aspect and what he thought about, I don't know, just different things that went on in the world, and what he overcame to get to where he was. Can't forget about Kate Spade either. who started working at a magazine, quit that magazine, just started working, and she started designing purses, and then eventually sold her company for $2 billion. I just think that's awesome. Started working at a small magazine to build a $1 billion company. I think that's awesome.
From the outside looking in, you look at them both as two very successful people who, seized their opportunity to, experience prosperity and put together a good life for themselves and their families. But, with all that in mind, they decided to end it all. And for me, it always, it's just another, dark reminder that appearances don't mean much. And you never know who's fighting a battle internally. And even when you do know people, you still don't really know how they're feeling.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. I think a lot of that is also shaped by, because, I mean, you look at Anthony Bourdain, and it goes back to what Trey was saying. Like, he came from a struggle that he overcame. And back then, because he was an addict at one point for, probably a variety of reasons. But you never know what people are coping with, and you never know how, what they're using to cope with whatever they're coping with. So it's like, you never know when enough is enough. They may seem happy on the surface. They may seem perfectly fine. They may seem perfectly normal to all the people that are closest to them. But you never know what anybody is going through. Oftentimes until it's too late. And that's just, it sucks to see such great people go out like that. Because you always think that, like, if somebody had said something or intervened or just talked to them, then maybe it would have been avoided. But you just don't know.
And it feels like suicide is the, escalation to addiction almost. When you look at how you become addicted to something, it seems like escape. You're trying to escape a feeling, escape pain. And when that's proven to not be adequate, you're looking for other means. And I think for most of us, it's hard to understand really what that feels like, to want to end things. Like, I know I've had bad days. I know all you gentlemen have had bad days. But having a bad day and then deciding to end it all is a huge step.
Yeah.
And what must go on? It must be like, how do you tell someone to be able to, swallow and overcome an anvil that's on your chest every morning you wake up and it carries and you're walking around with it? Yeah. How do you tell someone to deal with that? How do you tell someone just to get over it? How do you tell someone to talk to someone about it? Because sometimes you can't verbalize how you feel.
I think too at the same time, like, everybody's problems are their biggest problems to them. So regardless of what may seem minute to somebody else, like, people tend to not want to burden other people with their problems. But at the same time, that problem could be huge to you, and getting it off your chest might be what saved your life. In the end, when you internalize so much stuff, after a while it's going to become overwhelming, and you're going to start looking for other coping mechanisms. And that's why people turn to stuff like drinking and alcohol and everything else. And we've seen dozens and dozens of celebrities either overdose or commit suicide or a number of other things. And from the outside looking in, we all think that they got it all, but at the same time, it's like you have no idea what they may or may not be going through until we're reading about it in the news. At that point, it's too late.
Do you think it is a mental thing, Corey, or do you think it's a chemical thing, or you think as far as like a celebrity, they work for like 40 days and then they change their bodies, they change their eating habits, they change their surroundings, and then after the movie's complete, they go back and they're not busy and they have to face. You get what I'm saying? So basically, when you're busy, you don't think about what you need to think about. You don't have to face certain things. And then once your mind and body's not occupied no more, when it's just you got to think. You got to process everything. You get what I'm saying?
I mean, I get what you're saying. I really have to, and I always do this, and I hate to do it this way, but I mean, it's just the honest to God truth. Like, I think a part of that is honestly that we as human beings are at least partially inherently arrogant. And the reason I say that is because the human mind is still an organ, right? So the human mind is it does what it's supposed to do. So 10% of how your mind works is conscious thought, 50 to 60% is subconscious, and 30 to 40 is unconscious, which means 90% of what your mind does you don't control. Like it's completely out of your control. And from the time you come out of the womb, your mind is being programmed. So all those battles and struggles and everything that people go through, they started experiencing since way back when. I mean, if we look at a lot of these people already had troubled past, right? And that's on people's subconscious no matter what. And I mean, it's like we was talking earlier. He could have been traveling to escape. He could have been traveling because although he enjoyed it, like, it could have been his way of not dealing with something. Because we don't know what happened to him in his past, and whether or not he realized it or not, if it's on your subconscious or even on your unconscious mind, it's there whether you like it there or not, and there's nothing you can do about it. And we as human beings like to think that we're in control of our mind, but I mean, when you even think about the numbers I referenced earlier, if you're only in control of 20% of your conscious action, then 90% of what you have going on you can't do anything about, which means when that 90% overwhelms that 10%, you're probably going to look for a way out. I mean, it's just the reality of it. And when that happens, you never know how that plays out. I mean, when you look at people like Michael Jackson, who probably wasn't looking to OD, meds was probably his way of escaping his reality. And in the end, it cost him his life.
I think it was a lot to do with performers over the years and pain also.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's a prime example. You look at MJ, troubled past, troubled childhood.
And that's what they said about Prince. He was so much in pain, he would take certain opioids to, subdue the pain, and then he just did too many.
There's so little we know about, the brain and the human psyche.
Yeah.
And we've came a long way scientifically on, HIV treatment, for example, and, cancer treatment. But when it comes to depression and suicidal thoughts, it feels like we're still almost in the dark ages.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? In a way, I would say yes and no. And here's why I say that. Because it's not like we don't know. I mean, there's been psychologists that can predict the likelihood of a marriage surviving by 90+%. The likelihood of, somebody committing suicide or not by 90+%. Just by diagnosing personality traits. I think the thing about it is, and it's terrible to even put it this way, but we neglect to own certain aspects of medical expertise. And the reason I say that is, if I was to go to the doctor right now and they were to tell me, all right, these symptoms mean that this is likely what's wrong with you, and 90% of the time they're right, I would just be like, all right, so what medicine I need to take, and if you go into a psychologist or a psychiatrist that's still technically an MD, and their job is to specialize in the human mind, and they be like, all right, whether you realize it or not, these personality traits are symptoms, whether you like it or not, symptoms of this, and what you need to do to resolve this is this. What most people gonna say is, I know me. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna take it as criticism, and people become combative or defensive toward it, and people don't want to just own up to, you know yourself, but you don't know yourself. Right, so like who I am may stem back to things that I don't even remember from when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. And if somebody was to tell me about me, my thing would automatically probably be to be like, you know what, I know me better than you know me.
Yeah. So to build on what you said, when people say, I know me,